From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. Michael Cohen, a guy that's willing to take a bullet for the president and happens to be his longtime attorney, is under federal investigation for possible bank fraud, wire fraud, and campaign finance violations. I wonder what campaign he was working on. He was probably working for that crooked Hillary. Lock her up, right? On Monday, FBI agents raided Cohen's Manhattan office, his home, and his hotel room as part of the investigation. They seized records about Cohen's clients and personal finances. Among the records taken were those related to a 2016 payment that Cohen made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. She alleges that she had a sexual encounter with Trump. Investigators took Cohen's computer, phone, and personal finance records, including tax returns. Federal prosecutors collected communications between Cohen and his clients, including those between him and his client, the President of the United States of America. The raids point to an escalating legal jeopardy for the longtime Trump confidant. He's deeply entwined in the personal life and business life of Donald Trump. Trump has repeatedly called this raid a disgrace, and he's railing that the administration is they're the subject of an unfair, baseless, misguided investigation. Basically, Trump says it's a witch hunt. The deep state strikes again. The Cohen raids required high-level authorization within the Justice Department. Under regulations governing the special counsel work, Mueller's required to consult with Deputy Attorney General Rod J. Rosenstein if his team finds out information that's worth investigating but doesn't fall underneath the mandate to examine the Russian interference with the 2016 election. So if he found something, he's required to tell Rosenstein, and he did. These raids are part of an investigation that's only referred by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller. He didn't execute them. The federal prosecutors in New York did. And to serve a warrant like this on a practicing attorney, it's incredibly rare. And it being the attorney of the president, this is so rare, I would be, if I'm a betting man, and I am, bet you $1, it's the only time this has ever happened. Federal prosecutors are required to obtain approval from top Justice Department officials. The acting U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, Jeffrey S. Berman, and top Justice Department officials in Washington probably had to sign off on this. And they would only sign off on this if there was already proof that there were criminal acts occurring. Mark Zuckerberg faced a pair of Senate hearings about the misbehavior of a company that he founded, Facebook. In his prepared remarks, Mark Zuckerberg says that it is, and this is an impression of the guy scared in the spotlight, it's clear now that we didn't do enough to prevent these tools from being used for harm, and that goes for fake news, foreign interference in elections, and hate speech, as well as developers and data privacy. Cat's out of the bag, Mark. We caught you, all right? Now, Facebook is destroying the world one clickbait at a time. There's going to be lots of questions for the tech wonder boy, like, what's the deal with Cambridge Analytica? Also, what's the extent of the Russian social media scheme? And how many ads did Russia buy, and why were they allowed to spend money on American election advertisements? Mark? How did Facebook become the hub of the Russia propaganda machine? And how many users were in 3 key states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan? How many of those users were registering impressions on Russian Facebook propaganda? Mark? Do we really want to know the answers to these questions, though? I am kind of scared of what we might find out. Backpage.com is gone. I'm sure you don't know what that was. I didn't know what Backpage was, but I did a little research, and it turns out Backpage was a classified advertising website that launched in 2004. It originally started off a lot like Craigslist and then later became the #1 place to purchase and sell sex online. On Monday, it was announced that 7 top officials have been arrested after a grand jury in Phoenix issued a 93-count indictment alleging conspiracy, facilitating prostitution, and money laundering. The arrests come after the government seized all of Backpage websites around the world on Friday. Authorities allege that the company laundered somewhere around $500 million worth of prostitute-related ad revenue since the site launched. The indictment also accuses Backpage of facilitating prostitution committed by those posting ads on the site. This includes the sex trafficking of underage girls. Virtually every dollar flowing into Backpage's coffers represent the proceeds of illegal activities. So how was this site up for nearly 15 years? Well, turns out Backpage had evaded prosecution in large part by invoking the Communications Decency Act, which is odd that Backpage would be able to use something that has to do with decency. Enacted in 1996, the law provides legal immunity for website operators for content posted by third parties, so long as the operators weren't involved in creating the content. Last month, the House of Representatives and the Senate passed FOSTA, which stands for Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. The purpose of the bill is to enable victims and state prosecutors to pursue websites in criminal and civil court without being blocked by Section 230. It's still awaiting the president's signature or veto. Opponents of the bill noted that federal prosecutors already had the tools to pursue websites such as Backpage, which this law hasn't been signed yet, and they are now defunct. Syria is in danger of becoming an arena for the settling of scores between world powers, and it's a damn mess over there. First, over the weekend, there was a gruesome chemical weapons attack on the war-torn city of Douma. This attack has reportedly killed 50 and injured hundreds. It remains unclear exactly which chemical weapon was used in the alleged attack, but it's pretty clear that Assad is attacking his own people again, specifically the rebels with chemical weapons. Then on Monday, missiles struck an airbase near Palmyra in the East Province of Homs in the pre-dawn hours of the day. It's unclear who dropped the bombs over there because it's such a hot mess. The Pentagon denies that the U.S. had anything to do with the bombing. Russia and Syria claim that it was Israel that did the bombing, but Israel says it has nothing to do with the missile attack on the T4 base. 4 Iranians were among the at least 14 reportedly killed at the base. Russia and Iran want the U.S. out of Israel, but Israel and the Kurds are hanging on to American support. They're counting on it. The Syrian rebels are leaving Douma. This was the last rebel stronghold since the Arab Spring. And yesterday was John Bolton's first day as the new National Security Advisor. On Monday, President Trump vowed that the United States would take swift action in retaliation for the suspected chemical weapons attack. But just last week, he wanted out of Syria. France and Britain began making circumstantial case that Syria and Russia and Iranian partners bear direct responsibility for the chemical attack. Are there any world powers not involved in Syria? Well, where does China stand? China says that they resolutely oppose the use of chemical weapons by any country, any organization, any person, for any reason, under any circumstances. So my guess is they're on our side. There have been 10 chemical attacks reported in Syria just this year, including the Douma incident. This is according to the American Medical Society. My question is, with all these world powers playing in, are we about to hear that this is World War III? When would we find out? Is it not until we write the history books that we find out this is World War III? I don't know. The deficit is going to top $1 trillion by 2020. That's what the CBO office reported Monday. This is mostly due to the new tax bill that Republicans passed last December. The federal deficit is the gap between how much money the government makes and how much money the government spends. It will hit $800 billion this year, which is 21% up from last year. And then by 2020, blammo, $1 trillion. Because of the new tax law, the federal debt is projected to be on a steadily rising trajectory throughout the rest of the decade. So much for the fiscal responsibility the Republicans have claimed, right? During debate on the bill, Republican leaders predicted that their proposal would spark massive economic growth, and it would even limit or eliminate additions to the deficit. It looks like that was just not true. I'd call it a big old lie. Oops! Members of both parties then added more to the deficit in March when they increased military and domestic spending by nearly $300 billion over the next 2 years. We've had a big tax cut, and now we're spending big all in the last few months. Chuck Schumer said in a statement Monday, "From day one, Republican agenda has always been to balloon the deficit in order to dole out massive tax breaks to the largest corporations, wealthiest Americans, and then use the deficit as an excuse to cut Social Security and Medicare." I'm working on my Schumer impression, I know. Nonetheless, House Republicans are also expected to vote this week on a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, which would force federal revenue spending to balance. It would force balance there. That is widely viewed as a symbolic measure with little chance of passing Congress or winning the necessary ratifications from the states.